The other item of unfinished business then is the 2013-2014 budget calendar review and budget update.
We looked at this slide or handout at the board retreat, and we talked about the various scenarios that we were facing. At that point in time, we were looking at the per student increase on the revenue limit. If we think about the revenue limit is really the amount of money the district is going to be able to spend in any given year. Okay, we do have some additional grants. State and federal, but usually those state and federal grants have rules and guidelines that we need to follow with them and their specific programs. So as we're looking at these different scenarios back in, I think it was early February, right?
Yes.
We threw out...
This isn't...
I'm sorry, Mr. Gordon.
No,
yeah, there was...
This isn't embedded, I don't believe. Okay.
Is there a question about the policies? That's okay. Let's clear it up now.
There's
I'm sorry.
all of these for the first review. Do we list those for the public to know out loud?
This was a second review.
Yeah.
For all.
Individually, it says first review, but they were actually second
Yeah.
review.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, on the individual lines, it says first review, but up above, where it says 6A, it says second
Second
review.
review,
So
right.
that was a little confusing, but
Okay.
these are all for second review.
Yes.
Correct.
They are all for second review. I just transferred them over from the last meeting.
And that's why it says first review.
Yes.
Does that clear that?
Yeah. Yeah, it
Confusion.
does. They're in different orders, and that's what.
That's what three out.
Yeah.
I looked at it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any problem with that?
No, no.
Okay. All
I
right.
was just understanding the paragraph up there and then listing it separate.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Mr.
No,
Gordon.
that's fine.
Thank you.
So, anyways, we looked at the screen back at board retreat, I believe back at the beginning of February, and I think Mrs. already said this document is not embedded, and I will get that in there. I just didn't catch this on the agenda. But anyways, we looked at a lot of different scenarios, because at that time we really didn't know what the governor's proposal was. We did know that, though, there was probably going to be a range. We knew what we got in 12-13, which is a $50 per student increase, which really was not in the revenue limit calculations. It was a separate piece. So that $50 increase really kind of got pulled out. So really, we got it this year, but it was not calculated then again in the 13-14 budget when we're taking a look at that. So we made our estimates based on really $0 increase, a $50 increase, a $100 increase, a $150 increase, and a $200 increase. And when we look at these estimates here, I guess I had a pretty good idea it was going to land somewhere between there. So we provided those scenarios. So if we look at, if we receive $0, which is the governor's proposal now for the 13-14 and 14-15 school years, we would be short. It shows about $168,725. But keep in mind, that's really not what we're short. We're probably short closer to $360, but there is a hold harmless in the revenue limit, so we will get that money. We're just fortunate that hold harmless is still in the revenue limit. If we receive $50 increase, we still would be $168,000 short. That's why I took the time to point out that hold harmless, because the following year we won't have that hold harmless, so that's why those numbers look so close. They're actually one's 725 and the other one is 216, so there is some difference there. And then if we would have looked at a the $100 increase, we'd still be about approximately $65,000 short. If we got a $150 increase, we would show that we would be positive about 91,000, and if we got the 200, which nobody is talking about, we would be $247,000. Now, we need to understand this was built using assumptions and percentage increases. This is not taking the budget and breaking it down by line item and saying we got to increase here, we got to increase there. Those things I'll be putting together, and I hope to have for you, possibly by the April board meeting, if not by the May board meeting, or sometime thereabouts, and that will really start to hone in on what these numbers are. There is talk out there right now that potentially we could receive $150 per student increase, but in the end, we need to let that go through the process of the Joint Finance Committee, then it's got to get in the budget, and then the Joint Finance Committee has to convince the governor that this is what's needed in the school districts. One thing I will point out that I think we need to keep in front of us right now is that public schools right now have a $0 increase, and right now there's a significant increase in the voucher schools out there. So right now, we don't have any money to increase for our expenses. Even in our fixed costs, we can't increase our expenses right now, but we need that $150 just to maintain. There is an assumption of a 1% increase built in salaries and about an 8% increase built in the fringe benefit package. And we can, if we had to, we will get through next year, 13-14. If you project this out into 14-15, using again the 1% and 8% increase on salary and fringe, in that order, our projections are in the 14-15 year right now, we would be approximately $1 million short. Okay, so this is just not an issue in 13-14 if we're not able to maintain some semblance of an increase, a per student increase. This will roll up and wrap into the next year, and will continue. Now there's debate whether we're going to give salary increases or decreases, depending on what money we get. But I can tell you, we have an obligation to, make sure that we're recruiting, retaining, and hiring the most qualified candidates in the field, and that will at some point in time come back and start to hurt us. The other thing that we should keep in mind, it's not just the per student increase. We were just talking about our 4K numbers and our 5K numbers. We've lost about 46 students in the last 2 years, and that's primarily because of the changes out at Fort McCoy. That's what we're estimating and seeing right now, the switch in the different units that happened. I believe that's about a year ago now. So when we look at that 3-year rolling average, it won't be until the 14-15 school year that we actually start to level off. Once we level off, we can start thinking about going up. But when you're looking at that 3-year enrollment, because it's a 3-year enrollment, 13-14 school year will be the last year where that average is dipping, unless we lose more students again this year. Then that will continue to dip. So as long as that enrollment keeps dropping, so does the number of students that we have. Any questions or concerns?
What's the timing on in Madison with the lawmakers, discussing an increase? The governor's original budget had the 0 increase. We've heard even Republican lawmakers have resisted that and are arguing for something more. And then, as you pointed out, anything that goes through a joint committee would have to go back to the governor. What's the time frame?
You're looking at the Joint Finance Committee. It's just going to, I believe, take this under consideration in the next coming weeks, and then you're looking at approval sometime in June or July. That's the latest that I've heard. Okay. I have seen budgets. It wasn't too many years ago we didn't have a budget until almost the end of October, so I don't expect that to be an issue this year. I would expect something in June or July on the budget.
I was at a meeting last Friday that Jennifer Schilling was at, and she is on the Joint Finance Committee, and she said their goal is June.
Okay.
That they have a decision made, so. But they have 4 hearings around the state. I think there's one in the Dells. Maybe that's not right. I know, but we may be called upon to go and speak about the difficulties that the current budget recommendation was created for us.
And one of the items on the agenda is the proposed letters
Yes.
that you've drafted and are recommending to encourage them to support public schools. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Any other questions concerning the budget items?
That will be on the agenda from now until September. at least.
October, probably, until we approve, set the levy.
Right. Okay.